Oh, sorry. All right.
Welcome to another crossover podcast featuring members of this time. We are Podkist, Ken Mills, the almighty Podfather himself. Welcome, sir. And of course, my voice, you can tell. I am. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not. I'm Napoleon today. Wait, no. I'm Julian Gillen. Of course, I'm one of the regular participants in the KISS FAQ podcast. Ken, good to talk with you, as always. I look forward to our chats, and this time we're actually taping one, so we better behave. There will be evidence.
Julian, it's such an honor to be part of the first VaultCast, episode 1. This is so cool. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, well, you're the first person I thought of when I thought, why don't we start doing a regular-ish kind of podcast just dedicated to Gene Simmons' Vault? And, you know, Gene would want me to just do something right now, and that is plug his website.
Absolutely.
And if you want more information, you can check it out at genesimmonsvault.com.
Okay, Gene, thank you very much for that. And I'm sure Not Gene will have something to say about all of this while we go through this. But, you know...
genesimmonsvault.com is the source for all KISS information. It is the place to go. It is, if you want to know about the vault, do you want this to be your vault or do you want this to be mine? It should be your vault, right?
And you've had some good news in the last 24 hours, haven't you?
Yes, I've had some excellent news in the last 24 hours. Let's take it back a little bit. As a person who has documented, all of history, like yourself, people were sending me messages or coming up to me and saying, "Hey, I can't wait to hear your review on the Gene Simmons Vault." And I'm like, I don't have $50,000, let alone, I don't have the $2,000, whatever price point a person would want to join up at. And Andrew Jacobs was the first one who said, if you started a GoFundMe, I would pledge. I think you should do it. I think that enough people care about you and want to hear what you have to say that you should do it. I said, I will not start it. I absolutely will not. And 4 or 5 people were talking on the Podkiss Facebook page, and Christine Carlson Wolf took the ball and ran with it, and she started up a GoFundMe page. And we were sitting in the living room, and my wife said, "You won't believe what's right here." And it had already started, and there was $200 within like the first hour, just bang. And it was very shocking in a way because, I made it clear that this is nothing that is needed. You know what I'm saying? This is not a charity. This is not going to help people with water, restore electricity, or anything that's important in the world. And I want to encourage everybody to, help out where you can, if you can, right? I mean, that's something that you believe in. I know it's something I believe in. But this is also fun, and whoever thought that this was going to happen, right? That the box set was even going to come out, because we've been hearing about this since what, 2004?
Oh, we've been hearing about it for decades. We've been hearing about it since it was posted in black and white.
Yes. But I remember back in the day, it was Monster. It was called Monster. There was called Alter Ego. It was always something Gene would speak about in interviews, that someday when he found, when a record company or somebody approached him with the right distribution method, this would happen. Do I think that it's absurd or over the top? You betcha. But that describes the entirety of KISS's career, right? Everything they've ever done.
Oh, without a doubt. Would you expect KISS or Gene Simmons to do something subtle? I don't think they'd know the word. It's not in the vocabulary. And thank God it isn't, because life would be very dull without Gene Simmons, Paul Stanley, and some of the kooky ideas those two come up with.
Absolutely. And they have taught both you and I, if we do something, do it with style. I mean, anyone that's read your books know that you put a lot of time into what you do, and they're over the top and wonderful, and I love them. And you were one of the people who contributed greatly to get this to happen, that the Vault experience would happen for Ken Mills. You were one of the people.
When I saw Andrew Jacobs' post, I immediately clicked like on that. I believed in it. And, obviously, we can't do this for every single person. It's just an impossibility. But if there was no person who wasn't just worthy of, a group effort to get a vault to, then you're that one person, Ken. And I mean this, I'm not going to stroke you. I'm not going to rub up against your leg here. But everything that you've given to the KISS community, everything that you've given to me personally, you're an inspiration to me. And I'm so glad, I'm so proud of the KISS Army and everyone who has responded to the GoFundMe for you, that you're going to get to experience this. Because I also know this, while we're going to do a little podcast today about some of the material in this vault, when you do the full podcast treatment for your experience, I know that is going to be an episode that no one can miss. I know that you're going to do it in such a way that it's going to be the definitive way that we as the KISS Army can experience the vault if we're not able to do it ourselves. So it was all about you being the right person, the proper person, and you know what? To give you something back, a little bit of 10 years of what you, and more than 10 years of what you've given the KISS community, then right on. So I salute the KISS Army, the fabulous Button Queen, for putting it out there, and also working with a lot of people to help make sure that it happened. It's just been fantastic to watch and to be a part of.
There have been over 90 people that have contributed to make this happen, and it's been stunning to see this all come together. I'm going to take everyone's name with some notes, maybe they left a message in there, whenever they donated or whatever. And I'm going to present the card to Gene Simmons. I'm going to get a picture of him holding the card. I want him to be aware that this was not just one guy spending his tax, his income tax refund or something like that, that this was something that a lot of people believed in and that they made it happen. And it's been an amazing set of people, not only the great KISS fans, but a lot of Monkees fans and just people who have dug all the shows. And it's like the Beatles said, and in the end the love you take is equal to the love you make. And we put a lot of smiles out there into the world, and we want to keep on doing that. But I was really impressed by what you did, because you gave some very rare books away as part of this, and it was an amazing thing. Dwayne Tootle, who has a book about Prince, is coming out.
I want to do an episode on Dwayne's book. I met him in LA, and his book is going to be absolutely fantastic. So, if you're not a Prince fan, I would still say, if you're interested in the recording history and history of an artist, check out Dwayne's book without a doubt.
It's going to be excellent. But he did that, and representatives on behalf of Peter Tork donated signed things. People on behalf of Mickey Dolenz donated signed things. Michael Nesmith, there was an action figure that Michael Nesmith signed that was donated by Jody Ritson, and it was just amazing. So it wasn't just people donating money. Plus there was a lot of collectibles, and I did some actual drawings of Gene Simmons, the man himself, and things like that. And so a lot of people got something back as well. So that it was a very cool event.
So, at the end of the day, we're talking 90 Ken Mills fans. I think people who probably recognize what you've given to various communities, because you're just not a KISS guy. You do the Monkees, Zilch, the podcast, correct? And you do a Cheap Trick one, I believe, as well.
Mm-hmm. And the newest baby, Pop, which is all about pop culture and everything from TV to movies to whatever. So we like KISS, we're branding everywhere, right? Hello Kitty, here we come next. So
maybe not. I think some ideas are better left on the sketching board.
Oh, come on. A nice Hello Kitty version of me, that would be cool. But all kidding aside, I never thought that we would see this Vault box set. And it has really shaken the KISS world. Some people are very upset. Some people are very thrilled. Some people are confused. But that kind of, again, goes back to that's KISS for you, right?
Yeah, and just think about this, Ken. In the last day, Paul Stanley's publicized a line of jewelry that's having a very similar sort of response within the KISS Army, and those people who are still supporters and those who have kind of stepped away. I never thought Gene would actually find someone who would give him enough money in order to make it worthwhile. And
Hmm.
I'm very happy that we're going to receive a vault. I'm even more happy that the first one's going to be in Los Angeles, which is closest to me. So I'll be one of the early adopters and get to work out the kinks for everyone who goes later. So Gene will learn a lot from his experience with me because he thinks it's the Gene Simmons vault experience. No, he's actually sold me the Julian Gill vault experience.
There you go. Let me ask you a question, Julian, because some people have said that things like this, like for example, it was mentioned on the KISS FAQ message board, that KISS has caused a division amongst its fans by pricing fans into certain categories. Now, before you answer that question, I want to run this by you. People are outraged about Paul's jewelry and the prices of that, or even his art. And some people are upset about even Peter Criss's farewell dinner and performance. Remember that? People were upset about the price of that. And now we've got this vault. But I just want to turn you towards a similar fan base that has multiple itinerations of itself. Star Trek. There's the original series, there's Next Gen, there's Deep Space Nine, and now Discovery, the brand new thing. And the only way to watch episodes of Discovery is to pay $7.99 or $9.99 a month for the ad-free experience. And Star Trek fans are losing their minds because this is something that they've always got for free on television. I see as much outrage about someone having to pay $9.99 a month or $7.99 a month as I do about this $2,000 vault experience or the Paul Stanley jewelry line. Your thoughts?
From one perspective, I guess I'm an egalitarian, and I would like to think that everyone could have everything. I'm also a realist that I would love to have a Porsche Panamera, and
Mm-hmm.
I just can't quite afford it. So
Right.
I can't have one. I can afford a vault, so I'm going to have to sell a lot of copies of it live to do so. So
Mm-hmm.
I understand why people get upset. They think they're being excluded and disrespected in some way by these kind of methods of monetarizing property that are being explored by various bands and acts and entities. So you had a very good example with the new Star Trek series, which I'm having to boycott because I'm not interested in paying that in order to see it, especially until I've seen some of it somehow in order to judge whether it's worth paying. So,
Right.
on that side of things, I'm perfectly fine in saying, well, I can't have it, I can live with it. On the Kiss
Mm-hmm.
side, I didn't like the price point of the Kiss Monster book. I don't have one.
Right.
But then again, I have no interest in a coffee table size book that I wouldn't be able to store in an apartment in San Francisco. So,
You'd have someone come over and turn the pages with you.
well, it would take the whole
Think about
room up. That's the problem. And you live in an apartment, you don't have room. So I wouldn't buy one anyway. The pictures just weren't interesting enough for me. But that's besides the point. People want to get mad sometimes, I think, as well. They want to be offended. I can't afford to go on the cruise. Aside from the fact I really don't want to be on a boat with a bunch of Kiss fans. And I don't mean that negatively, but I don't want to be 24/7 on a boat with nothing but Kiss surrounding me. I need to be able to step away from it. So I can't bring myself to ever spend that sort of money to do that sort of thing. So does that kind of answer that? I understand the frustration. I understand the feeling of exclusion. I understand that trying to monetize things sometimes leaves, a little bit of a negative aftertaste. I get it. But it's just so freaking cool. you know,
it's
it's something cool. I said I wasn't going to buy the Kisteria box set, by the way. I completely said that's an absolutely joke of a price for the product that they're putting out. It's horrible, blah blah blah. Someone can probably dig up every comment I made about why Kisteria was rubbish. I went and bought it in December last year. Still paying it off,
yeah.
but I did go and buy it. And this, I did click. I checked. First thing I did was logged into my credit card and see if I could do it, and then I clicked purchase, and then started looking at my collectibles, deciding what I might have to do. I understand that a lot of people have been members of the Kiss Army far longer than I have. A lot of the people out there have supported the band through lineup changes and ups and downs, ebbs and flows that predate my becoming a Kiss fan. And I can see them seeing that things are getting more and more expensive when it comes to being a Kiss fan. That you've got $2,000 Hysteria box sets, $4,000 books, however many thousands of dollars it costs to go on the cruise with all the travel and everything else that goes with it. Concert tickets are not $7.50 anymore. You're having to pay 70, 80, $90 for decent Kiss tickets at a show.
Yep.
So I can just see that inflation in the Kiss Army is taking a toll on maybe how things are received.
But that's not just in Kiss. That is in everything. For example, going back to Star Trek, you have the Star Trek Las Vegas experience where you can be on the deck and all these various things. There's conventions, there's cruises, there's all these things. This is not just something that is, part of Kiss and Kiss culture. It is part of rock and roll culture. It is part of our culture, period. We now we are living in the ages of fandom, right? And part of the fandom thing is that when you see everybody else opening up, like let's say that there was a new Kiss album that came out and only 10,000 were made. And people would see their friends and fellow Kiss Army members opening up these albums, and there's a feeling of hurt. How come I'm now not able to do that? Like, for example, the Monkees did a $200 Blu-ray box set, and a lot of people were upset by its sheer existence, just the fact that it existed, because they may not have had a Blu-ray player, let alone a DVD player, right? They may be going, well, I'm on a fixed income. I can't afford to get a Blu-ray player. And how do I hook it up to my TV? It's all these things. We live in an age where people had a hard time figuring out how to set their VCR clock. And now you've got to come into high def, right? But that $200, the price was not the problem. It was that the upgrade that had to come with it. Some people had to buy a new high def TV. Some people wanted the high def to be in regular DVD format, which defeats the purpose of high def, as you know. So it's weird what will separate fans, or at least make people feel that they're separated from their fandom. I think that this is where a lot of the people being upset and the hurt is coming from.
Yeah, it is. But, one thing I do feel is that the middle class in America, the middle class, is a very broad group nowadays, as, money's really starting to flow into one area of the population and leaving everyone else without, is that life is becoming so expensive. You used to be able to go to baseball games, and I'm speaking about the San Francisco Giants, obviously, since I do live here. And tickets have gotten more and more expensive. San Francisco 49ers, no longer in San Francisco, but no one can really afford to go to those games. So in so many areas of culture, of what has been our life, things are starting to become out of reach. And when it happens to a band or to a musician that you love and respect, all of a sudden you're like, oh, they're doing it too? I can see where some of the anger and disgust is coming from.
Absolutely. But here we are. Gene Simmons is celebrating 50 years in rock and roll with the release of his Vault. So, shall we let him speak for himself?
Yeah, why not? And Gene's put out an electronic press kit, so here's a little clip of Gene introducing his Vault.
I'm celebrating 50 years. Can you believe it? 50, some people might say, somewhat legendary years in rock and roll. I've been planning something very special for the fans. It's called the Vault Experience.
And Gene would get mad at me if I didn't do this one as well at the same time. So if you want to find out more about the Gene Simmons Vault.
And if you want more information, you can check it out at genesimmonsvault.com.
Now, you might be wondering, and if you're listening to this podcast, you probably already know what it is, but we'd be remiss not to just give a little bit of an overview about the Gene Simmons Vault.
Well, the Vault Experience is an inside look at my somewhat weird, colorful journey which I have to tell you is far from over, by the way. It features a limited edition collectible vault that includes, well, it's a box set, and it includes 150 unreleased songs. Many of the tunes have big names in the business. You'll know them. A deluxe book packed with dozens of unseen photos spanning 50 years and other cool collectible items, including one unique surprise item from my personal archives that I personally put in to each vault. And each vault is going to be personally delivered by yours truly, the powerful and attractive Gene Simmons, to fans at private meet and greets around the world.
All right. So obviously, any information that you want to find out about the Gene Simmons Vault, apart from the track listing, which is why we're doing this podcast, you can find at genesimmonsvault.com. And I don't doubt that there'll be more updates there. All right, so information about the vault's already started seeping out. Gene's been doing the rounds on numerous music-related podcasts, video shows, and whatnot. He's been over on Fox News, some of the other stations as well, pimping his product. But he went on Loudwire, and he had his box with him, and he showed it off to the host. And one thing I do want to put a disclaimer on this show is a lot of the contents and perhaps even versions of the songs in the vault that we're going to discuss may well be different on the final version of Gene Simmons' Vault. We're simply going off material that may be pre-production. Again, he's showing off a book. He's showing off a vault. It may not be the final version that people will be receiving. So it's just important to stress that. And some of the details about the songs, even though we do know their titles, it's not clear what versions they are, because anyone who's collected Kiss unreleased recordings knows there's about 18,000 different versions of Calling Dr. Love.
Right. And I think that, people should know up front that anything that is played on this show, as you said, it may not be the final thing that we're going to hear, or the quality that is going to wind up on the box set. It's also the fact that all of this is on YouTube, right, Julian?
It is indeed. Actually, for some of the stuff that we are playing today is not on YouTube, but that's besides the point. The information itself, the video interviews that Gene has done have been sourced from YouTube, so they're freely available for you to go and watch. And I do recommend, particularly the Loudwire interviews. Eric Miller's interview with Gene Simmons on the Pods and Sods podcast was very illuminating, so I strongly recommend that one as well. And there was, of course, Gene Simmons Visit Strombo.
Yes.
Again, those are the primary sources that we're referring to now. And I do want to explain something else that Eric Miller did give me a shout out in his podcast, in his interview with Gene, where he was mentioning how some of this information surfaced. And I do want to just not necessarily correct Eric, but when Gene appeared on Loudwire, the video was uploaded to YouTube in high def. So you just download the video, you put it up full screen, and you could zoom in on them when they were flipping the pages of the book and read the whole stories behind the songs. And that is where we get the full track listing for disc 1. So I do want to just say it wasn't me who figured that out. Someone else did. I don't think I'll even give his name at this point, as I'm so associated with it. It's just like I'm trying to dig myself out of a hole with Gene. Yeah. But, there was nothing nefarious, shall we say.
Cool. And there's nothing nefarious about any of the samples that you're going to be hearing. As we've said, these are not the finished product that will be delivered. This is just a guesstimation, and everything can be found at YouTube. Please do not send the cops after anyone on this show. Gene actually was taken aback that at what Eric Miller said, that Julian Gill had found these things, and what he was not even aware that someone could do this, that someone could freeze it on their screen and watch it. So it just shows how hungry Kiss fans are and how much people want to know about this set, Gene. So this is a good thing.
So I think the final disclaimer is, Gene, we love you, and we're not trying to ruin any surprises. All of these samples that we are going to play in this as well, don't email us asking for the full tracks, because we don't have them. We don't
Right.
have any of this stuff. All of the samples of many of the samples of what is on here have actually been distributed in an electronic press kit
Right.
from GeneSimmonsVault.com. So we are using them under the principle of fair use as we're discussing them. So,
Yes.
that's a long-winded disclaimer, but one that needs to be said. We're not hiding or hoarding anything at this point. Well,
Right.
I'm hoarding stuff, but I'm that sort of person. So why don't you want to jump into it, Ken, and let's go through this first disc?
Sure. Let's sell some Gene Simmons Vault experiences. Let's go.
All right. Well, we've known that this one song is going to be the first track on the Vault for some time, as Gene has mentioned it in interviews leading up. So let's just play a little bit of Are You Ready?
Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Are you ready? Oh, yeah, to have a good time.
So that is Are You Ready? The first song on the first disc of the Gene Simmons Vault. Ken, what do you think of that?
Would have been a great opening track for Monster.
It would have indeed. It's pretty obvious that that is a latter-day Kiss track, and I think the notes for that detail that it's a demo that he cut with Tommy Thayer and Eric Singer, but he also said that it wasn't for any particular album, so it sounds a little bit Sonic Boomish to me, but it's also not clear where it comes from. What are some of your other thoughts on it?
Right. Well, it to me, when I mentioned that it would have been great on Monster, it would have been a great kickoff and opener. And we know that traditionally that's a Paul centric part of the album, if you will, that Paul usually kicks off the albums. But this would have been a great, fun song to kick off the album. It could have been everything from this is the kind of thing that you'd hear at the beginning of Monday Night Football or something like that, or any concert or sporting event. Are you ready? It's Gene grabbing you by the throat and said, let's go, this is happening. But it sounds like a real fun song, and this is the kind of thing I'm kind of excited about to actually be receiving on the Gene Simmons Vault experience.
There's one thing I always love about Kiss music, and obviously Gene Simmons is a big part of that. It's the anthems, the songs that declare intent. And while it may be considered contrived in some way for the first song to be Are You Ready? For that to be the advertising song, I'm all for it. I think it's a perfectly laid-off track, as much as I can judge from 13 seconds of an audio sample. So,
yeah. But I'm already giving it 5 tongues up.
5 tongues up. Yeah, absolutely, Gene. That's a winner.
Yeah, I dig it.
All right, let's move on to the next track, Turn to Stone. Now, Gene calls it a primitive demo that he recorded just with Tommy Thayer. So let's play a little sample of this, and this is coming off Gene's Speaking in Tongues DVD, if you remember that one. And, I went to dig out this DVD today, and I don't have it. So I had to get this sample from elsewhere. So here's a little bit of Turn to Stone. And again, we don't know if this is the version that's going to be on the Vault.
Give it up.
Let me show you what it feels like on the inside.
Ken, what do you think of that one?
I liked it from back on the Speaking in Tongues DVD. It was a pretty cool thing. It's sad that this has never found its way into our hands onto a legitimate product until now. I think it works as a Kiss song as well. What do you think?
Absolutely. And one of the things that I found really interesting, obviously that's a good nearly half a minute sample that was on Speaking in Tongues. I was very disappointed, actually, in the period that followed Speaking in Tongues, that those full songs did not leak out. I thought, oh, now they've done a little bit of them, they're going to follow, and they haven't. So, it's interesting to see, or more appropriately, to hear where the full song goes. And again, I look forward to that. If that's just Tommy and Gene knocking out one, well, sounds good to me.
It sounds like a good songwriting team. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of cool stuff in this, and again, 5 tongues.
Yeah, and just think of sitting down with Tommy Thayer, and who's a great guitarist, what he could do, just jamming, coming up with ideas. I think it'll be a fun look into the process of writing songs with Gene.
And there's a neat rhythm and bluesy kind of thing to it as well, kind of ACD-ish kind of thing. You know what I mean?
All right, next up is Juliet, and I keep hearing him say Julian, but that's just my ego. So here's a little bit of that, and I think this comes off the audio montage from the press kit. You know what? That's got me reaching for a Living Colour album.
Oh, really? There's some song that really reminds me of. I'm trying to think.
The Cult of Personality.
No, there's another one. There's another one that was a big hair metal type band hit, but I can't remember what it is. But I like the energy of it a lot. Ken Tamplin from the band Shout.
That's right. The Christian rocker himself, who has several co-writes actually with Gene. Very, very fascinating combination there.
And Sammy Hagar's cousin.
Is he?
Yep, absolutely.
Well,
but this one features a play on the words of Romeo and Juliet. And was this done on tour in Illinois, mid-90s?
Yeah, this is one of the pages of text that we can actually zoom in on, and he does tell the story of how he was on tour in Illinois, which, of course, has a city called Juliet.
Yes.
I don't know. Is that how you pronounce it? I'm not a Midwestern guy, so.
Joliet.
Okay. Thank you. So Romeo and Joliet, and apparently Gene liked how that phrase kind of worked and what it could have possibly come up with. So he recorded the demo with Ken Tamplin on guitar and a drum machine, which is kind of apparent. But that's one I'm very much looking forward to hearing the full version, because I like the vibe. Again, I said I kind of was catching Living Colour, Cult of Personality vibe in it, and it's a little bit outside of the usual sort of wheelhouse that I expect from Gene. So I love it when he goes somewhere I'm not expecting.
Yeah. And, he really is the guy to do that. Like, there's a lot of times that within KISS you have a certain structure. This person will do this and this person will do that. Gene really is all over the map, and that's one of the exciting things about this is we're going to hear all the stuff that was, quote, too goofy for KISS, as some people have said, or, it's weird or offbeat. That's the kind of stuff I'm actually really interested in.
And that's the thing I love about Gene the most, is that he's got so many different voices. He's the man of 1,000 masks, 1,000 faces, but
yes.
he has similar in terms of how he sings. And you never know what voice he's going to bring in or what vibe. And, that's just very indicative. Next up is another Ken Tamplin co-written track called Hey You, and we don't have any samples of that, so no idea what that one's going to be like. He does mention a little bit about the song and the writing in the book, but I don't think we want to give away absolutely everything.
The game is to be sold, not told, right?
Absolutely. So I Confess is the third of a trilogy of co-written songs with Ken Tamplin. And of course, this song did make the Carnival of Souls album, so this will be the demo version. Demos I love. I love to hear where the songs that do make the albums originally started. What do you think of I Confess as a song, Ken?
I love it. It's got some of that stuff like from Legends Never Die in it and all that stuff that he was kind of swimming with over the years, the ideas he was working with and trying to get out. It's a very dark song, and it's the kind of thing that when people hear KISS, they don't think of it right away. But that's how I feel about Carnival of Souls. It was the dark side of KISS, and so this is another good one. Gene's working out his thoughts about religion a little bit here and all that sort of stuff. So
yeah, this kind of comes into the Seduction of the Innocent and I Confess, and some of the stuff that he was singing, Thou Shalt Not, obviously on Revenge, all bring to mind Jimmy Baker, and some of the evangelists the fallen angels. But I Confess I love as a song, so I can't wait to hear how the demo started and to compare it with where they went for the final version. So again, very, very appealing for me as a collector.
Yes.
All right, next up, And this is one that any fan of the Creatures of the Night era will be very happy. Legends never die. Here's a sample.
Legends never die.
I absolutely adore that. Has me thinking Beatles, White Album.
Absolutely. Great, great, great. You hit it right on the nail of the head. And as somebody who loves the Wendy O. Williams album as well, plus the version of this that we heard as done by Kiss, this is exciting to go back. And this is written by Adam Mitchell and Mickey Free.
Mickey Free, an incredibly gifted and talented musician. And I think we've all waited for more Creatures era stuff. There's been a lot of excitement recently over the Vinnie Vincent Warrior album that's been released in some markets that did have some stuff that was presented to Kiss and considered. Going to the Wendy O. Williams album, which in some ways is a Kiss album by proxy, just with a different vocalist, it's going to be wonderful again to hear just Gene singing it and to see how he changed the lyrics, if at all, for Wendy, because some of the lyrics in this were recycled for Childhood's End on Carnival of Soul.
Yeah, this is one I'm very excited about. I'm going to give this 5 bloody tongues up.
Oh, that's a good ranking there. So I actually logged into the BMI publishing website today, and the copyright splits on this suggest that Gene is the majority writer on this song as well. People often wonder, how much of that did someone write? Well, in this case, we're able to kind of figure out it's split between 3 writers, and Gene's representation had at one point at least 48% of that, with the other 2 splitting the rest. So whatever that means versus reality, I think there's a lot of Simmons in that song.
Yeah.
Now, we're moving on to one that has actually been a part of my collecting story. Years ago, there was an auction on eBay for a Gene Simmons 12-inch reel from the studio, and I actually ended up winning it. On it were a couple of takes of a dreadful song called Street Legal, and then there was a 5.5-minute version of Gene doing Something Wicked This Way Comes, and I'm going to play a little bit of the song from my reel.
She pulls the trigger, but I'm the bullet coming out of her eye. Something wicked this way comes. Something wicked this way darkness came, and I gave her my heart again, and that's forever. It was love.
Again, it's important to stress that we don't know what version Gene Simmons will actually release on the Vault. He clearly states in the book, where you can read some of the text about this song, that he recorded several versions, some with Bruce on guitar. I played this for Bruce, and he didn't recall playing on it, but he's done so much work with the band that that's not definitive either. So the version on the Vault is going to be 3 minutes and 44. So it's definitely not this song, or it's an edited form. So great song, great title. He gave it to Doro, who did a great job on it too. Ken, what are your thoughts?
I've always enjoyed what I have heard as far as this being a demo. I don't know which version we're going to wind up with, right? But I'm excited about it. This is a great title. This is one of those ones that would have been great on Psycho Circus or something like that if it hadn't been fleshed out. Couldn't have been worse than a lot of stuff that wound up on there. But I'm very excited. Once again, this is going to be great to have this stuff that I've never really been a bootleg person, in the sense that, I didn't have access into the hoarders world, right? Even to this day, I still don't. and it's been very cool to know that this is coming my way.
Yeah, well, you know, a lot of people will experience a lot of these things for the first time, even if
Yes.
they are songs that circulate amongst hoarders. You know, I had the reel for a little while, and then I sold it on, and then the song surfaces. So, you know, what I like about this title is obviously Ray Bradbury, who
Yes.
wrote a very dark science fiction or dark fantasy novel in 1962, which Gene knew the title of, and he mentions it as he talks about it. So, again, even for hoarders, which I guess I do fall into that category, yeah, well, you know, I've been lucky to come up with some things, and now people are going to really get to share in that. Let's move on to the next song on the first disc, and that is The Hand of Fate. Now, that sounds like something to me that he should have given Nick to sing. And all we know about it is that it dates from 2008, 2009. What are your thoughts, at least, on that title, even though we don't have anything to go by?
Well, wasn't Hands of Fate part of the lyrics of Legends Never Die? You can judge by the hand of fate or something like that in the Wendell Williams version.
I guess it could well be. And obviously, Gene is well known for writing down little catches of, you know, phrase, series of words, just little lyrical ideas like that. And if your backbone has ever slipped, then you know he reuses them.
Well, there was a movie called Manos, Hand of Fate, which was a big thing from 1966, and it's one of those cult movies that, you know, those horror films that Gene might love. So, who knows? Maybe that's where he got it from. But I don't know. I'm excited. I'm curious.
All right, now we're going to get into a few songs that we really don't have any demos or samples to share with you. The first of these is Hunger, and Gene is very clear in detailing that he recorded this in Atlanta. He didn't know the year, but we've pretty much figured out that since they played in Atlanta on New Year's Eve in 1985, that it was probably the next couple of days in January 1986 with Eric Carr and Bruce Kulick, of course, and he makes, and that's Gene it is, makes the point of saying that the other band members were out whoring, and he went into the studio to record this. So I'm going to call this one of the 25 to 30 songs that he gave to Ron Nevison for Crazy Nights.
Yeah, probably.
And that's all we could say on that, everyone. So you're just going to have to check back and see if we come up with anything new in future episodes of this podcast. Next up is In My Head, the original demo of the song that appeared on Carnival of Souls. Again, I've said it before, I can't wait to hear what these demos sounded like versus the final version. Do you actually like this song, Ken?
Yeah, it's this is a good one. I love this song. I wish that I remember at the time that this was going to be coming out, there were people that were trying to get the Spawn movie soundtrack to be done by Kiss. Do you remember that?
I do.
Yeah, and this was one that I remember seeing back in the old days where someone took a thing of Spawn, a comic panel where he was screaming about his, you know, how he couldn't think straight and saying that this would be perfect for that. So it'll be interesting to hear because the final version is so heavy. I mean, it's one of the heaviest songs in the entirety of the Kiss catalog. And that stomp, that it's just amazing. It'll be interesting to hear how that started out life as.
Yeah, you know, that really grinding kind of pulsing throb that song has. It's like Baby Driver 1995, only darker.
Absolutely.
I don't know how I went there, but I did. All right, next song up is Carnival of Souls, number 1. And likely another demo version. One thing I do remember, obviously I did write the Kiss and related recordings focus, is I was coming up with so many different versions of Carnival of Souls that he had actually worked on. Rewrites of rewrites of rewrites. There was a song of Island of Lost Souls and then Carnival of Souls. So again, coming back to Gene and how he writes, it's not sitting down and writing a song for Gene in many cases, though no doubt he's had some that have just come to him in a flash. He's taken ideas, verses, bridges, choruses. What was Kurt Cobain's verse, chorus, verse, or whatever? But he's a constructor.
Yeah, he absolutely is a constructor. And again, those are titles of movies. Carnival of Souls. You know, Gene gets a lot of a lot of juice out of movie titles and book titles and things like that. Things that he's like She, for example. Look at where that came from, right?
All right, so the next one, again, we don't have any sample for. Are you a boy or are you a girl? And when he's asked about this in one of the interviews, he does struggle to remember the name of the band that recorded the song, but he does, and I was very impressed by this actually. He does eventually identify the Barbarian song of the same title, which many people have wondered if this was a cover from, but unlikely that it's a cover of that 1966 song. Even though Gene was aware of it, he probably just liked the title and wrote his own song around it because the credits are strictly Simmons.
Yeah. I'm very excited about this. And, we're only on disc 1. We're not even through with disc 1 yet. This is amazing.
Yeah, I'm shocked. As we go through it song by song, even though I've thought about these things, it's just, how far we're going into Gene's career, and we're not even, through disc 1 yet. So next song up is Say You Don't Want It. Well, I don't think that ever applied to Gene, so I don't know a thing about that. It just sounds like a good Gene title and something that he shouldn't be singing.
Absolutely. I mean, the man's a father, for God's sakes. It's weird how we put all these stipulations, like it's okay if you're 25 to be, a guy going after chicks, but if you're that age, come on, lay off. No, it never ends, folks.
Next song. I don't even know if this is a song, because everything I've heard about Mongoloid Man is that it's got Joe Perry of Aerosmith playing guitar on it. And from what I hear, was written around 1976. But from someone who has heard it, apparently, he described it as boring, repetitive. So from that, I kind of figured that it was more a riff idea. So, and I'll get to judge for myself, I guess.
It's the kind of thing that it sounds like you were jamming with someone came up with something really cool, and you kept hoping that it would go somewhere cool, but you just wanted to make sure that you documented this riff. So this is from 1976. So this is amazing. And this was considered for the Kiss box set, right?
It was, from what I understand, one of the ones that was considered because everyone had heard about it. And Gene had mentioned it in so many interviews in Goldmine in the 1990s. So it's one that's been out there. And I don't know if this one ever even made it into Hoarder circles. So be one that we all get to enjoy, I guess.
Yes.
The last song on disc 1 that we know of right now is I Wait. What do we know about it? It was co-written by, I love this, Steel Panther's drummer.
Interesting.
What does that mean? I don't know. It took a little bit of blurry zooming in at the bottom of that page to figure out that it was Darren Leader. And once you see the publishing information next to it, it was enough to confirm that it was Steel Panther. So Steel Panther and Kiss and Gene Simmons, I think it's probably a perfect combination. And don't forget, Darren was actually on an episode of Gene Simmons' Family Jewels. Mm-hmm. I think it involved the bull, that episode.
Yes.
And a glove. And everything else I just want to block out of my mind.
Fits like a glove.
All right, let's get into something else that we have a sample for, because talking about all these songs that we really don't know much about is, if you've been asleep, wake up. Come on, guys.
Wake up, sleepyheads. Yeah, it's party time! A little bit of Nuke.
All right, so let's play a little bit of Christine 16 featuring, who are those guys?
The Van Halen brothers.
Never heard of them.
From the Van Heusen shirt company. Remember, Gene thought that when he first heard Van Halen, he thought it was the Van Heusen shirts company. And, kind of funny.
I'm just a poor immigrant boy from Israel. Now, Gene has confirmed that the Van Halen brothers are, of course, represented on this box. Finally! I'm looking up at the sky. My fists are raised, because that means Got Love for Sale and Tunnel of Love. And, of course, Christine 16, which we just played some of. But that demo, I've got a little bit of a problem with that sample, which, again, comes off the audio montage. That's got piano on it. I thought that happened in the studio with Eddie Kramer spontaneously, in which case it's going to ruin all my dreams.
Well, there's the story, and then there's what really happened. We always like the story better than what really happened, right? Chord. As far as, where that sample stops, it's like, that the solo is right at the other end of that, right? It if you listen to that, it's heartbreaking because they take you right up to where the solo would start because they know that you want to hear it, right?
They're just mean, evil bastards.
No, I think this is something that we've been excited about since we heard the whispers of this even being a reality. Remember all those years ago, everybody said, Gene's just talking out his ass. It's coming out, folks. Here it is.
And here's the reason that I'm excited about it. Someone was saying on, I think it was the FAQ message board, could have been Facebook, whichever. Who cares? Gene has said that Ace played Edward's solos note for note, so why do we care? We've already heard them then. They're on Love Gun. And if Ace did the same thing as Edward, then what's it matter? What's it matter? Are you joking? You're going to get to hear Eddie Van Halen do the solos, and we're going to know definitively whether or not Ace just copied Edward note for note or not. So I'm really excited about it because who gives a shit if he did copy him note for note? That'll be Eddie Van Halen playing 2.5 Kiss songs.
Right. That's just the kind of thinking I cannot understand as a fan. Like, I'm a huge Beatles fan, right? There's a whole thing called anthology made up of stuff like this. This is the stuff that dreams are made of. I love seeing where songs come from. This is going to be fantastic.
And the Beatles are another great parallel because do you remember a few years ago how overnight on iTunes the 1964 bootleg radio sessions appeared?
Yes,
we already had versions of all those songs and everything else, but as a Beatles geek, it was like, more Beatles stuff to buy. Click, take my money.
And it's weird. People are. I'm not going to go there. But
either you get it or you don't. It may turn out to be one of those Destroyer resurrected Sweet Pain moments. We've heard for years and years about how Ace cut a solo for Sweet Pain, how for whatever reason it was redone by Dick Wagner, and then we finally got to hear it and we're like, that's it? Well, be thankful, I guess, that we finally get to hear it and judge whether it's
absolutely
that's it. However, one of the biggest moments on the Gene Simmons Vault has been teased in one of these samples, and I'll let this sample speak for itself before we discuss it. How many Kiss fans have not wanted a crystal clear, full-length version of It's My Life from 1982? My hand is raised. Teacher?
Yeah, mine here. I wanted that. I've wanted that for so long. To me, it was a crime that this was never on Creatures or Asylum or whatever. It should have been, it should have come out a long time ago. I don't care who was responsible for it not being on a Kiss album, and I do not really care for the version that came out around the time of Psycho Circus. It's not the same. It's just not there. You know what I'm saying? It's a lesser product.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I mean, I know it features the band, but it's a lesser product. It's not. It didn't have the energy that the other one did. So this is something I'm incredibly excited to own.
And the details of which I am incredibly excited to find out. Who is on that? Is this Vinny? Is this Ace? Is this one of the 750 people who'd went through the doors during guitarist auditions in 1982? And there weren't 700. Another song with Eric Carr on drums, and it's the bombastic Eric Carr. Some of the best drum sounds ever captured. That was Nico Bolas, who did the drumming, miking for that album. And obviously,
just make 10 louder,
there's a version that was put out on Wendy Williams' album, but this is the Kiss version. So we're getting into Spinal Tap, man. This goes up to 11.
These go to 11.
These go up to 11.
All right, so Nigel is going to bring you the next song.
Ah.
Yeah, I had a tough time with this one. So here's a sample. And now I listen back to it, and I have listened to the album that is actually on today. It's pretty clear who that background vocalist is. That is Jamie St. James. I'm pretty sure that is a demo for a song that appeared on In Heat, the final Black and Blue album. And Jay Richter was kind enough to point out that was a Black and Blue song. So, yeah, I'm fine with that. I was listening to In Heat today, and actually enjoyed it more than I thought I was going to.
Absolutely. So this is disc 1.
Oh, that is the segue into disc 2. Those are just a few songs that appear in the montage that we don't know what disc they actually appear on yet. So we'll be finding out, and hopefully in a future episode of the Gene Simmons VaultCast, we'll be able to share that with you. So let's move on to disc 2. And this one's a little bit tougher. It'll be... We'll be a little bit more brief with this because it was shown in the second Loudwire video, but they didn't zoom in enough to allow us to really clearly read all the details. And I think another disclaimer is probably needed in this one, that maybe people are reading a little bit too much into the blurry text. Some things are obvious, and this one starts off with Weapons. Now, if you bought Gene Simmons' solo album in, what year did that come out, 2004?
I think so. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. But it's weird because not very many people have heard that album to begin with, so that whole album is rare to some people. So but we're going to hear the demos that wound up on that album. So
yeah, which were songs that he, again, Gene brought to the Psycho Circus session and possibly earlier. Again, it's going to be so exciting to find out all of the details. Another version of Weapons follows, at least what people think it is, another version. And then Hate and another version of Carnival of Souls follows. So we've already talked about Carnival of Souls. Hate is one of those songs that I can't decide if I do hate it or not. It's just an oddity. It's a very uncomfortable song. But again, it's kind of good to always hear Gene going in a different place than you might expect him to.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so this next song has an interesting story. I'll play a little sample first, and then we'll talk about that story.
Where he's needed the least. He's one of those regular dudes. He's that master of flash, till his mind starts to crash. It's come so he's hard to refuse. 12-year-olds with painted faces follow him around. Even girls in satin laces know when he's in town. He's all together, wrapped up in this world. Never once believing.
And no, that was not Gene Simmons singing. He has a lot of voices, but he does not have John Montgomery's voice. To answer some of the questions about this song, this is Master of Flash. In the early 1970s, 1973 to be precise, Kiss performed with a band called Street Punk. And alarm bells should now be going off. John did an episode of BJ Cramp's Rock and or Roll, episode number 33 in 2014, where he discussed the whole 1973 music scene in New York and a lot more of his personal history. And he tells the story of Master of Flash was a street punk song that he wrote with Robert Blaine, who was, I think, the pianist in that band, and that Gene and Paul, Gene specifically, had come to them and offered them money for this song and another one of their titles, Rock and Roll Appetite. And I think he offered them $20,000 for each. And again, this is John Montgomery, so I don't know of any factual stuff to back any of this up other than him telling the story. And eventually, at least, Master Flash was transferred to Kiss, the copyright, in 1980. And obviously it was never recorded, but it's almost a Send in the Clowns, or
Yes.
or something similar. I don't know if you can figure out a better way to describe it. It's a very odd song that I just think is, I've heard John's original demo. I just find it, what would Gene do with this?
Yeah, it definitely fit into that circus carnival vibe of Psycho Circus, but it also could have been Gene's version of Do You Love Me on Destroyer. You know what I'm saying? That kind of a vibe.
Wow, I did not even think about that. That's a really, really good way of looking at it.
It's almost the same song in some ways, thematically. You know, what do you love about me? Why do you love me? You know, I'm your master of Flash. So it's the same kind of thing.
Very cool. And the second song, of course, is not included on the Vault as far as I'm aware. And that was Street Punk's Rock and Roll Appetite, which John said was an inspiration for Rock and Roll All Night and Tomorrow and Tonight, which obviously was a rewrite of Rock and Roll All Night. So I think a lot of the other songs on this disc are likely demos of songs that we do know. Within In Your Face is Gene's vocal. Obviously, Ace did record that as a bonus track for the Japanese edition of the album. A couple of other songs of I Wanna Live. If it's too hot, you're too cold. Gonna put my log in your fireplace like a hot knife through butter. Getting towards the end of this disc is Rain Keeps Falling, and we do have a sample of that for you.
But I guess it's really not the same as having her beside me to have and to hold. And here I am on the road again, making love, but it's not the same. I can't help dreaming, and the rain keeps falling down on me, drowning out my misery. And the rain keeps falling down, down, down.
All right, so that has now leaked to the wider masses as part of the Psycho Circus outtakes. Gene did, of course, release it on the bonus CD that came with the Gene Simmons Family Jewels Collector's Edition DVD in 2006. So I'm going to assume it's a different version. There's probably several. And if not, then I guess it'll still be legitimate for him to call it Unreleased because it wasn't released widely. Have you heard that? Have you heard that song before, Ken?
Yes. Yeah, I like the version that is on the Family Jewels Collector's Edition set, and but it's going to be. I'm very curious to see what will be different about it.
And then the second CD ends with what looks like a song called Bells of Freedom. And the first word's a little bit tough to make out, so we'll find out. So, why don't we wrap up this episode with, just a sample, another sample from Gene Simmons' montage. And this is Laughing When I Want to Cry. So that was obviously co-written with Bob Dylan. Tommy Thayer has recently described playing guitar in the session, being called by Gene, "Hey, I've got Bob Dylan over at the house. You want to come over and play some guitar?" I mean, can you imagine being Tommy Thayer and getting a call from Gene saying that he's hanging out with Bob Dylan? You want to come over? I mean, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that what a great moment in rock history. Seriously, that is just so cool. Well, I kind of wonder if Paul was jealous about that, because we know Bob's a big Bob Dylan fan.
Yeah, well, it's all of these things that Gene has done in his career, like jamming with Bob Dylan, that I think are what's going to make this vault so exciting. These are just a few of the collaborations, that we've discussed today, and Bob Dylan's just one person. Who else has played on these? Joe Perry has played on one. The Van Halen brothers. Who else is going to come out of the woodwork in the Gene Simmons vault? That's the anticipation, the excitement for me.
Now let me ask you a question. What are you going to do with your vault? I'm talking about the actual vault.
Well, I think I'm going to have to order a lamp that's shaped like a leg out of a Christmas Story.
There you go.
Because it's big enough to be like a coffee table. Or it looks like it is. I hear it's actually made out of wood, and it's got
it looks like a table.
But I don't know. I don't even have enough room here to kiss stereos right next to me, and it always gets
Right.
in the way. What am I going to do with it? I mean, I guess I have to find somewhere that has an attic and store it there. But
Well, the neat thing is I'm sure you can put some other rare CDs and stuff in there, right?
I hope it's a little bit more multi-use than
Yeah.
just holding a Gene Simmons action figure, a
Yeah.
medallion, a personal item from his collection, a book in this which contains a CD. So I hope I can fit something else in it. Maybe I can take some of my cassette tapes that I have next to me and hoard them inside the vault.
I don't know if there's metal that might, the magnetic fields and all that. You might want to watch that. But I think CDs, you could probably fit the whole Kiss CD catalog in there if you're careful.
Well, on a USB stick, of course.
No, I mean the actual CDs. I think that they could fit in there, but no, it's going to be really neat. And is it going to be one of those things where the CDs are in the book?
They are. That's what it appears to be when Gene leafs through the book on the Loudwire videos. That
First thing I will do is take those out and put them in cases. The very first thing I'll do.
I plan on ripping mine to MP3s first.
Well, as I take them out, then they will go into a home because I don't want them scratched by the cardboard. I would also suggest anybody that does do this, play your CDs, make sure that they don't skip, because your window of opportunity to get replacements, I'm sure, is probably pretty small, right?
Yeah, but they've already hired someone to do customer service who's done a very good job answering the telephone and answering questions. I do want to ask you, Ken. We've gone through what we think are the the first two CDs. Can I have you try and pick a favorite out of that material? That it's two CDs out of, I think, 2 out of 10 CDs. Pardon me. What's the material that excites you the most here? And if you can narrow it down to one song.
It's My Life. And it's weird because that's a song that I have access to, the Kiss version, the Wendy O. Williams version. But there's just something about that. To me, this is the late, one of the great lost Kiss classics because of somebody making a decision. It didn't get to our hands unfairly. What's wrong with a B-side, guys? You could have threw it on Killers or something. Come on.
Yeah. Kiss and B-sides. All right, so I'm going to try and pick one here, and I'm going to stay in the same era. I'm going to say right now I am most excited about Legends Never Die and getting to hear that one. It's just, we've got a friend who has done a couple of episodes of the Kiss FAQ podcast, Joe, who suggested that we do the episode on Wendy O. Williams' album, and it turned out to be one of the most fun episodes that I didn't expect it to be. I thought, oh my God, how am I going to get through this? But it was really engaging. So tying all that together, the Creatures era tracks, and actually hearing one that I have not heard yet, so where I've heard It's My Life, I'm very much looking forward to that. Very excited.
And if you want more information, you can check it out at genesimmonsvault.com.
So, Julian, if people like what they've heard, it's time for them to log on their internet typewriters to genesimmonsvault.com. It is the one place that you can get all the information for everybody out there about the box set to get. This is it, the one, the only time you can get this, the Gene Simmons experience at genesimmonsvault.com.
Let's bring this one to a close, Ken. We'll be back for future editions of the Gene Simmons VaultCast. It's just an opportunity to dig in and talk about what we're learning. Again, can't be stressed so many times that we don't know for certain what is going to be in this vault. What we do know for certain is that it's exciting.
That's right. If this doesn't make your schmeckle hard, I don't know what will.
Oh, go get your jerk socks.
Yeah. You are listening to the Kiss FAQ VaultCast with a bunch of powerful and attractive men.
Let's leave it there. Thank you all for joining us, and we will see you on the next episode of the VaultCast. Bye for now.
Is someone going to cut a check for that?
It's in the mail.
I don't do those things for free.